Welcome to the Unexpected Off-Road. I'm going to show you a bad hub bearing today. As you can see the movement in the wheel. And in here, look at the axle, you can see the movement in it. First thing is remove the axle nut. Worn hub bearings are pretty common repair on the H2. They usually last about 80,000 miles and then they're worn like this one is. Next we'll remove the brake caliper assembly. Two 21mm bolts are what hold the brake caliper assembly on, and normally you need to get a big breaker bar to break them loose because they are quite tight. Lift the brake caliper assembly up and support it so it doesn't stress the brake hose. Then the brake rotor just slips right off. A little bit of a tip here, I use a 1/2 inch drive 15mm deep swivel socket, and that gets right by the axle, making it easier to remove the bolts. Turn the hub assembly the other way so it makes it easier to access the bolts. If your truck is from an area where you get a lot of snow and they use salt on the roads, sometimes these bolts can be very difficult to remove. You just need to do a little bit of heat and some penetrating oil to get them removed. And also, the hubs don't normally come out as easy as this one does. This one pretty much falls out in my hand. Next, remove the ABS speed sensor harness. It comes with a new hub bearing. As you can see, the hub comes out with very little effort. This is not normal. Usually they take a bit of effort to get out of that hub knuckle. And this is what the hub looks like. That's the whole assembly with the sensor and the bearing and the studs. This is a new SKF hub bearing with X-Tracker technology. Here are the two hubs side by side. As you can see on that one, the discolored areas where from the bearings heated up. That's a sign of a bad hub bearing. I picked this up from our local Lordco parts store. If you're in BC, they're a great place to get parts from. This is a new hub bearing assembly. Now we start just reversing the order that we taken everything apart from. Install the hub. I suggest starting these bolts by hand because a cross-threaded bolt makes for a bad day. Now torque down your bolts to spec. These bolts don't have much of a head to them, and as you can see here, it's easy to round the head of the bolt off. Routing the ABS harness in its proper location and back into its retainer tabs is important to keep it from getting ripped off in the trail. So these lines you see here on the rotor are where the caliper has actually contacted the rotor from the bearing being worn so much. And I heard a squealing noise, and that's how I detected it. Rotor just slides right back onto the hub. I use a lug nut to secure the rotor back onto the hub, and that makes it easier to get the brake caliper on. Now slide your brake caliper back on and install the bolts. The brake caliper mounting bolts are very high torque. It's 221 foot-pounds, and I actually did this off camera with a large torque wrench. Now install your axle nut and tighten. If you have a truck that's like mine that's been leveled, you will need to move that mounting clip. I used a zip tie to secure the harness to the top of the control arm there, so it has no chance of hitting the wheel. The way you can tell if your truck has been leveled like mine, there'll be a spacer on the bottom of the shock. Basically, it's different torsion bar keys to give you more lift in the front. And that's it. Hub bearing is done. Put the wheel back on. So the socket you see me using is a torque stick, and that torques it to 140 foot-pounds. So my motto is repair, not bought. I encourage you to get out there and try to do some repairs yourself. Thanks for watching my video. Hope you learned something and maybe picked up a couple tips. Please give us a like and subscribe, and check out my channel for other adventures in future repairs.